Nintendo's in a lose-lose situation. Yeah, before I get critical of Nintendo, let's talk about a controversy that honestly isn't even their fault. The Switch 2's pricing. This isn't on the script, but I do want to say I'm really mad about the pricing, but it's not Nintendo's fault. But to talk about that, we need to start with the gaming industry and its obsession with making leaps in technological progress. The PS5 Pro was launched at $700 and has been hiked to $750. Xbox Series X is in the same boat, with some models costing even more. Remember the PS4 Pro? That launched at $400. God damn, is that a graph of PlayStation prices in your pants, or are you just really happy to see me? The thing is, technology isn't advancing in the same way that it used to. Moore's Law is dead, folks. These days, last-gen tech is way more technologically relevant than it ever has been before. But from the gamers to the industry itself, everyone's gotten a bit too comfortable with getting a bigger, better, faster set of consoles every 5 to 10 years. The console makers had a choice to make. Either keep up the trend and release a faster but more expensive console, or piss off literally everyone by putting an end to the era of progressively more powerful hardware. As a result, we get these price tags that make the PS3's $599 launch look downright reasonable. That's why there's been a spike in console prices the past few years. That's why the Switch 2 is more expensive. Nintendo did what they could. But no matter what they did, it was going to piss someone off. Therefore, Nintendo made the least destructive choice that they could. Release a faster console that costs more. At least their jump was smaller than Sony's. Also, this is just speculation on my part, but it seems like Nintendo might intend to have the Switch 1 coexist with the Switch 2. Not something I'd bet on. Nintendo's made similar claims before regarding the DS and the GBA, and they didn't follow through on that. But it's possible. And in my book, it's the best way to handle the situation, although imperfect. Sure, you could make most games for the Switch 1, and then just make Switch 2 editions. But then those games can't take full advantage of the Switch 2, and now the Switch 2 owners aren't happy. But it's the least offensive option I can think of, and as someone who can't afford a Switch 2, it's a path I would appreciate Nintendo taking. Also, about that Virtual Boy thing. In a world where Nintendo can charge $30 for a piece of cardboard and $100 for a piece of plastic, humanity is no more. The bees have disappeared. Oh God, I can't take this shit seriously. Now that that's out of the way, I want to talk about something a little bit more opinionated, because, to me, Nintendo doesn't feel quite the same anymore. Yeah, I know, Nintendo's always done slimy things. They've been clowned on for killing fan games since the dawn of the internet. But I don't know, ever since the loss of Iwata, Nintendo really has felt a little different to me. I've always felt as if something changed during the Switch era. It wasn't anything major, just seemed like something was different all of a sudden. Maybe it's because I'm neurodivergent. I experience things differently than the average person, so maybe I just caught something that most people would miss. Or maybe it's the Mandela effect, who knows. But regardless, I remember feeling a change, and now I see Nintendo doing so many things that I'd never have thought they would do, even going so far as to charge for online multiplayer. And worse. But we'll get to that in a second. I don't trust modern Nintendo, and while I don't expect you to be on my side about that, I hope you at least understand why. But the real issue that I want to dig into is that Nintendo is okay with hurting the consumer. Yeah, we're finally here. The hater section of the video. I understand if a couple of you are going to click off, but ultimately I'm not looking to convince you of anything here. I'm just here to give my take on recent events and honestly have a civilized discussion. I want to hear your thoughts on this stuff. That said, let's get into it, starting with the Switch 2 dock. I'm going off script again here, but I want to say that I'm technically inclined. I have put together my own computer before, I've fixed my Wii U gamepad before, It used to have this connection issue where even if it was right next to the console, if it was facing the wrong way, it would not get a signal. And I replaced the broken part, and it works perfectly now. This is to say, I know what I'm talking about here. Functionally speaking, the Switch 2 dock, and for that matter the original Switch's dock, it's just a USB-C dongle in a box. The same thing you can buy for your smartphone or laptop to get a USB port or video output. In fact, I'm pretty sure you can use the Switch 1 dock itself like this if you have a USB-C extension cable. I've got my phone plugged into a Switch dock. I actually had to slightly modify it in order to get it to connect, but with this mouse plugged into it, it doesn't work. But it is charging, as you can just about see. Fact is, there's not really any special sauce here. There's just a dongle with a fancy case. The Switch 1's dock at $70 was already pretty ludicrous, but there were competing docks, so no one really cared. With the Switch 2 dock, though, Nintendo not only bumped up the price to $125 US, they locked the Switch 2 in firmware. It can only work with the Switch 2 dock and presumably licensed alternatives. Although I will say there are unlicensed Switch 2 docks that presumably mimic the official Switch 2 dock in firmware. But worse yet, this software lock prevents you from using really any unlicensed accessory that has anything to do with the system other than supplying or drawing power. Do you want an easy-to-travel with HDMI dongle so you can connect your Switch 2 to, say, a hotel TV? Well, too bad, that's not happening under Nintendo's watch. It should work with the first Switch though, although I don't believe it's officially supported. It's just a feature of USB-C, which the Switch 1 actually implemented correctly. How about that there Joy-Con drift, huh? As you're probably aware, Nintendo got sued over Joy-Con drift on the first Switch and was required by the US to offer free repairs. They didn't fix it though, they just let it continue to produce Joy-Con e-waste. This is me editing, and I just want to say there's some loud sounds coming up, so if you've got headphones on or you've got your speakers really loud, you might want to turn it down until I say otherwise. But I'll give Nintendo the benefit of the doubt here. Maybe they couldn't fit a better analog stick into the Joy-Con 1 design, and they decided to wait until the Switch 2 to fit. Alright. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't fix it in the Joy-Con 2 either. It's still a problem to this day. They knew it was a problem before the Switch 2 was even a twinkle in a Nintendo engineer's eye. And somehow, it's still here. And let me remind you, this console is $450 and still has Joy-Con drift. But you want to know what Nintendo did to avoid another lawsuit? Yeah, they added a forced arbitration clause to the Nintendo account EULA. This was a month before the Switch 2 launched. Also, the loud sounds are over. You can turn the volume back up. If you don't know what forced arbitration means, it does a lot of stuff to clip your legal wings, but above all else, when you agree to an EULA that includes forced arbitration, you have agreed not to participate in a class action lawsuit against the company, in this case, Nintendo. And since basically everyone that would care enough to be part of this hypothetical class action lawsuit has a Nintendo account, they agreed to that clause. That effectively disintegrates any possible chance of a class action against Nintendo getting off the ground, even if it's irrefutable that Nintendo is in the wrong on this hypothetical lawsuit. In my opinion, forced arbitration clauses are the epitome of anti-consumer. They protect the worst companies from even an ounce of retribution. When you see a company introduce a clause like this, run the fuck away. Make noise. It means they intend to do something that their user base might rightfully sue them for, and they're going to do it anyway. Discord introduced one of these right before a data breach that leaked people's IDs. It's not a good look, and when companies even consider putting these clauses into their EULA, they should be publicly shamed for it every time they try. Now, despite how angry I got in that last section, I invite everyone to come to their own conclusions here. But the way I see it, Nintendo's getting worse. And not to mention, for reasons I cut out for structure, I dare say Nintendo's out of touch. What do you think, though? I'm pretty curious to find out. Although I do gotta ask, please keep the discussion civil. With that, I'll see you next time. In another year and a half, probably. Hey, Nakayoshi Nerds, it's me! I hope you enjoyed this little look into Nintendo. If you're feeling generous, would you share it with a friend you think you'll like it? I'd appreciate the boost. This one was kinda sorta a practice round for a Paper Mario video that I've been wanting to make for a long time. And yeah, that's why the B-roll for this video was Sticker Star. I haven't recorded footage of the other games yet. Sorry if it triggered any war flashbacks in the veteran Paper Mario fans. Not sorry for using Color Splash music though. This soundtrack is a damn masterpiece, and I intend to use it in every one of my videos going forward. Assuming I make many more. For real though, Chocosa Part 2 is coming. I'm just waiting for a chance to complete my set before I make another video on this little series.